Welcome to That Entrepreneur Life, a podcast about entrepreneurship that takes you from idea to launch and beyond. Each week, your hosts, Andrew Lees and 𝘵𝗵𝗃 discuss different business topics aimed at adding value to any entrepreneur's journey.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of That Entrepreneur Life. I'm Andrew Lees, and usually I've got Clint here with me, but today I'm going to fly solo. So we've got a very special guest on the show today. He's one of the OGs of podcasting. He's interviewed over 3,000 super successful entrepreneurs. Many you might have heard of, such as Tony Robbins, Barbara Corcoran, and Gary Vaynerchuk. Before I introduce our special guest today, I want to remind you to subscribe to our podcast and to our mailing list to our website, so you don't miss out on all the free resources we have to help you start and grow your business. With that said, I'd like to welcome our special guest, John Lee Dumas, to the show. How you doing, man?
Andrew, I am fired up to be here. Don't tell Clint, but I'm actually stoked. It's just the two of us because we're going to have a great time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes it's good to have that one-on-one, we can just bounce back and forth, but Clint and I do a great job of, if he was on, you'd see, we do a good job, I think, right, hopefully, of just like coordinating, but yeah, sometimes one-on-one is not bad. So yeah, so excited to have you on. I know that you're a very busy man. You got a lot going on. So I want to respect that. I'm just going to jump right in. So you have a really interesting entrepreneurial story. I'm not going to get into that because you do a really great job of explaining that and going into detail on your website. And I think everybody should go check that out. But what I do want to know is, what is it about entrepreneurship that really gets you fired up and gets you excited to get out of bed in the morning?
Listen, entrepreneurship is what makes this world a great place, because it is people like you, like me, like people that are watching this. They say, you know what? I'm going to identify a real problem in this world that is not being solved in the best manner it could be solved. And I'm going to go create the best solution to this problem. And Andrew, people will beat a path to the doorstep of the best solution in the world. They will ignore the second solution through infinity, but they will beat a path to the door of the best solution to their problem. And so when you're committed as an entrepreneur to do that, you're making the world a better place because you're creating better and best solutions to real problems that are out there, and not to go down a rabbit hole, and we won't. But that's why communism doesn't work. Because listen, people don't have any incentive to create solutions to any problems. So everybody does the bare minimum. Everybody tries to take the most that they can and give the least that they can. Because unfortunately, that's just what human nature is when there's no reward in place. And society's terrible. We all saw what happens when you have real communism and real socialism in place. We're not turning this into that kind of show. I'm not trying to, but I'm just trying to paint the point of why I love entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship makes the world amazing. This exists, this amazing piece of, machinery, because of entrepreneurship, because of capitalism, because it made sense for Steve Jobs back in the 70s to start Apple, that's now given us some of the best technology in the world. And you can say the same thing for Amazon and for Google and for everything, for Zoom, for this microphone, Heil. I mean, we have great products and services at our fingertips because people are benefited financially by making the best solutions to real problems. And how can you not get fired up about that as an individual?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, we're pushed, we kind of push each other, right? So as you were saying that, I was thinking about, we've all got this, as entrepreneurs, we've all got this sort of, we want to achieve financial freedom. The prize or the thing, part of what motivates us is money, right? Having financial freedom, having some more money, whatever it is. And we all have varying levels of what we define as success. But what's so cool about what you just said is that, competition, capitalism and competition, I think sometimes it gets a bad reputation. People want to feel like, we're not against each other, we're with each other. But even in competition, we are with each other, and we're elevating the game in whatever we're doing. And as you were talking, I was thinking about the Olympics. I was watching skateboarding the other day. And the competitors are so awesome because they all want to win, no doubt about it. They all want that prize. They all want to win. But at the same time, you can tell that they're all rooting for each other to do better, because then that makes them want to do better. And they continue to elevate the game until it gets, to a point where it becomes more enjoyable. You create more value for people. Like, we're creating better products and better services, because if there was just one company doing, in one market, they could do whatever they wanted and get away with it because there's no competition, nobody else pushing them ahead. So
what happens when you have no competition? You have a monopoly. And when you have a company that has a monopoly, they are not incentivized to create a better product, to innovate, to improve, because they've got a monopoly. So all they try to do is do the very least they can do, because there's no other option for people. So they want to make the most money by doing the very least that they can do. And everybody loses in that scenario. That's just kind of one step up from communism, because monopoly is a terrible place to be. I love when there's a competitive industry, everybody wins. Like, what do we complain about in this world? A lot of times we complain about our cable, because guess what? Back in the day, there was like one cable provider or one phone provider for people that can remember, like back in, the AT&T days. And so you just had to put up with whatever they were doing.
Exactly.
Like one DMV in town, you got to put up with their crap service. But, now with YouTube TV and Hulu and Netflix, dude, people are just cutting cords. People are just leaving companies by droves. So you're having to actually provide shocking good service. You're out. And guess what? You should be out if you're providing crappy service.
Yeah. You've got to be providing good value. You can't just be providing any service, any product, and just think you're going to get away with it forever. Might work for a little bit, but if you're continually wowing customers and providing great value, and you're working on improving that all the time, then you're always going to have a good place. So yeah, I think that's amazing. So John, from your perspective, and this is going to be maybe a tough question to kind of narrow down here, but from your perspective, what's the single most important thing to get right in order to build a thriving business, and how do we achieve that?
It's identifying the biggest problem that your audience has. That's it. If you identify their biggest problem, then guess what? You can then set out to create not a good, not a great, but the best solution to that problem. And then you will win. People try to complicate things. It's really that simple. Now, it's hard flipping work to accomplish that, pull that off, but it's simple to get to the place of, okay, this is what I have to do. Now, the execution is hard, and actually doing the work is hard. But you know what else is hard, Andrew? Being broke. Living paycheck to paycheck, waking up every morning, being uninspired, looking in the mirror and saying, I am so underperforming my potential. And I've been there. I've been to all of the places. And guess what? That's hard. It's hard living that life. It's depressing. So all I'm saying is choose your hard. Both paths you can take in life are going to be hard. The path to continue being a loser or to become a loser, that's a hard path. Being a loser is hard. And guess what? Being successful is hard too. So just choose which hard path you want to take. Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I think that one of the things that drives me to be an entrepreneur is the single most thing I'm the most afraid of, more than doing certain things in, my entrepreneurial journey. There's things that, I'm afraid of, I'm nervous to do. I don't think it's going to work with my businesses. But the thing that scares me the most, besides all of that stuff, is if I had stuck with the job that I had before, I had gone down that route and I had gotten to like my 60s or 70s and then only realized it then that, shoot, I should have made a change 20, 30, 40 years ago, that's the thing that, and I see that with people. They're like, some people have great careers that they love and they don't regret any of that. And that's amazing. Some people, I think, get to that point in their life, they get to that retirement age and they're like, oh man, I wish I had done something different.
that regret.
There's a book that everybody needs to read. It's called The 5 Biggest Regrets of the Dying. And it's a hospice nurse who goes and interviews people that are on the last days of their life. And one of the biggest regrets that every single person has that shares their regrets is that, like, I wish I had never lived my life to other people's opinions or desires, but I lived my life to my passions, to my desires. That's it.
That's it. Yeah. I love it. That's amazing. And that's obviously one of the reasons you're down in Puerto Rico, living a life in paradise. You know,
I love my dad, but if I listened to my dad, I would be a miserable, overweight, 41-year-old lawyer in Southern Maine. Miserable, overweight,
sounds pretty bad.
Unhappy lawyer in Southern Maine. Instead, I'm in the best shape of my life because I can prioritize what I want to prioritize. I am in the best shape of my life because I'm happy and I'm excited about living. You know, I would be depressed and miserable up in Maine doing that. So I would have just, you know, turned to food like most people do. And that's why, you know, 60% of America is overweight and obese. And the opposite is down here. I'm living in paradise on my own terms, loving life, getting to do this kind of stuff every single day, and just ecstatic about all of that. And guess what? My dad's unbelievably proud of me. He's so happy for me. But when I was 26 years old and clueless, that was the path he tried to steer me down. And I actually went to law school. I went to law school and I hated it. And luckily I had the courage to drop out after one semester, which was really tough, and try new things, which by the way, I failed at as well until I finally found my thing. So my path was unbelievably hard and difficult and fraught with failures, but I got through it. I kept trying and here I am today. And it was not a direct path to success. It was not easy. It was flipping hard, as we just mentioned and talked about. But man, once I made the decision, it was simple.
That's awesome. Well, a couple things you said in there stuck out. We could do a whole episode just on the balance of, you know, work life. I mean, people talk about that, you know, work-life balance, maybe a little bit too much, but talking about being in shape and living where you want to live and working and having all that going on. Surfing when you want to surf. Surfing when you want to surf. Yep. That, I mean, it puts you in a better frame of mind, you know, being healthy, getting sleep.
I mean, Andrew, you're going to die. You're going to die.
True,
there's an app that I have. I just downloaded. I haven't had it for long, but it's pretty cool. It's called 𝘃𝑗𝑗, and there's a picture of a frog on it. 𝘃𝑗𝗏. 5 times a day, my phone goes off and it says, "You're going to die." Now, is that a little morbid? It's a little morbid, but you know what? It's important to remember you're going to die, to put things in perspective, to make sure you're doing the right things in life, because you're soon going to be, frankly, too old to surf. Not soon, but you will be at some point. And man, you're going to look back and be like, what the F was I doing when I was in my 20s, 30s, 40s, when I could have been surfing 4, 5, 7 days a week? What was I doing? Now I'll never be able to get on a surfboard again. Ever.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to, because I think a lot of people are like, you know, YOLO, I got to do everything that I can do now because you never know. And then they might go broke doing that, right? Like they're like, you know, I'm not going to focus at all on how I'm going to become financially stable. I'm going to spend all my money on trips and all this stuff. And then they forget the fact that they need to have that money coming in and they don't balance that well. So I feel like, what you're saying is not to just say, screw it all and go do what you want all the time, but it's making sure that you set yourself up to be able to have that balance. So you're not working like crazy forever.
It's a good episode.
Love it. Yeah. Well, and I got one more question because I know I want to make sure that you have, you got a lot going on today, but so you actually segued into this before, but like I said, I could talk so much about that balance thing. It's so cool. But as we wrap up the episode, I know that you struggled, like you talked about, you struggled with your entrepreneurial journey, like especially in the beginning, getting started, which we all do. I don't think there's one entrepreneur ever who hasn't struggled in the beginning, right? But what was that moment for you where you realized that your podcast would set you up for financial freedom for the rest of your life?
It was the day that I booked my first full month of sponsorships, which was April of 2013. I got off a call with a podcast broker who said, "Hey, I think I can get some sponsors for your show." then he called back. He's like, wow, like these shows want to sponsor your podcast. And it's not like a ton of money per sponsorship, but you do 30 episodes per month. So this really adds up. And I remember him sending me a check for $12,000 and being like, I can make $12,000 potentially a month or more as my show grows. Just by doing something that I enjoy doing, that I have fun doing, that I'm learning from. Like it was crazy. And now, fast forward, we're over $100,000 a month on just podcast sponsorship. So that kind of insight showed me what was possible, and the rest is history. That's
so cool. Yeah. And I always say it's not how much money you make, it's how you make it. Like that's the most important thing. If you have a consulting business, which I happen to have a consulting business, if I'm struggling to get clients, here and there, and it's very spotty, and I'm like, I've got to really grind to get every single customer, I don't have a good system in place, then it doesn't matter if I get a $100,000 client. That's great. That'll last me a while. But when that runs out, how do I keep the money coming in? I'd almost rather have $10,000 a month consistently just rolling in. So I love what you just said, but with that, we can wrap it up, man.
Andrew, thank you. Loved having a conversation with you today. Make sure you ignite that idea.
Yeah, it's really been a pleasure, John. And thank you all so much for listening to That Entrepreneur Life. To learn more about what John's working on, check out 𝘃𝗏𝘃𝗏.com. He's got a lot of awesome books, a lot of great content, and of course, an amazing podcast. If you like what you heard today, please subscribe to our podcast, and don't forget to download our free ebook about the success mindset at thatentrepreneurlife.com. Thanks for continuing to support what we do as entrepreneurs. And don't forget to join us next week for another episode of That Entrepreneur Life. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to That Entrepreneur Life podcast. Be sure to visit thatentrepreneurlife.com to join the conversation, access our show notes, and discover our fantastic bonus content. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode as we continue to add value. Until next time.